A few years ago, our oldest daughter, Annette, bought some property out in the southeast corner of Oregon. We're going out to survey it today, and our Annette can't make it out to help with the survey, so her younger sister Julie and Julie's husband Ben are going out to do the survey job. Ben is a licensed surveyor, and so he'll be able to handle the challenge of this job. It's quite a challenge doing a survey out in the desert like this, because all the survey monuments are nothing but old stone monuments put in the 1880s, someplace around then. And so with the passing of time, a lot of these have disappeared, but fortunately we've been out here before and we've been able to find the bigger share of them. Mile after mile, a cloud of dust follows us as we maneuver out the two-track road through the sagebrush plain. Annette's property is about 7.5 miles off the main road up this two-track road with grass and sagebrush growing in the center of it. But that's one of the prices you pay to be out like this, where it's peace and quiet. Well, we've been out there several times. We never have seen another car come out here or go by. So next to no one ever uses this area out here where her property is. And according to National Geographic, there is less light pollution out here than any other place in the world. So it's pretty exceptional, particularly at night. Without that light pollution, the stars put on a show second to none. There's been a little bit of late moisture this year, so that stimulated the wildflowers into a blooming frenzy. Then we see a herd of wild horses, an old mare and her little colt are in the lead as they eat up mile after mile of sagebrush with those powerful big hooves. We found a level spot and put our tent up, and I'll just sleep in the cargo trailer after I unload the Honda out. And then we get the survey instruments out and get 'em all ready for in the morning. They're wildflowers every place you look, of all different sorts. There are a few different kinds of evening primrose out in the desert, from yellows to whites, and these are an annual. They come up each year from seed, and on a good year they'll come up and bloom really nice. The white ones are extremely pretty. They're the desert primrose that grows really close to the ground. Now we have to concentrate on what we came here for, and that's to put the survey monuments in. Ben will stamp them with a metal stamp. These are brass caps, and we'll plant these 1.25 inch steel pipe, one on each corner, with this stamped brass plate on it, which will secure very firmly to each pipe. The orange global mallows are blooming really nice now, as the sun is just now starting to come up. These global mallows close at night, so they're not totally open yet till the sun gets up at full strength. But we're up and getting ready to do the survey job. Ben's finishing stamping a few of the rest. Then as we're looking around, we find we have a camp mascot. He's kind of like our dog. He'll protect the place, and we see him around most of the time. By now we're almost ready to start in, and this job's going to take us most all day, although we've been out here twice before doing this, but we've got more information and we've found more monuments now, so hopefully today we'll be able to wrap it up. Julie sets up a little prism right above a little marker that we've put on the ground, and then all this survey instruments are pretty much automatic. You don't need to pull a chain or anything anymore. They'll measure the distance very accurately. We see tracks from the wild horses where they've galloped across the desert. A few on this 160 acres will have to go to each corner, and each corner is 1/2 mile from the previous one where we were. Julie sets up a prism and we're going to measure. We found a stone we thought might have been a monument, but it wasn't. Then we notice that pretty little white tip flowers are called the tidy tips, and then the ball buckwheat is blooming right in the sand. Next to them is the very beautiful sago lily, gently weaving in the morning breeze. The sand penstemons are themselves taking advantage of a little bit of sand on Annette's property to put out their beautiful blooms. As time passes and the sun climbs higher in the sky, the global mulleins are again opening their petals to let in some of the sunlight and try to get pollinated. Julie drives a little hub in the ground right next to some more flowers in bloom. A little lizard is checking out everything to see that all is going well, and a beetle has to come and check out the monument too. He has to, I guess, put his seal of approval on everything that's done out here, since this is his territory. We never get so busy that we ignore the Steens Mountains standing tall in the background, overlooking the blooming flowers. And our camp is starting to get a little bit of sunshine and just a little afternoon breeze starting to blow as we're progressing pretty well with our survey job. By now, it's time to get some concrete and some steel posts and start putting in monuments. We've made all the necessary measurements, and so now we'll set the monument and make the final adjustments to the measurements and put them in place. By the time we put all 4 corners on and close it, that's go all the way around and see where we come out. We were within 1/10 of 1 inch on 160 acres. That's 2 miles around, so that is really close. The steel post goes in, and then the concrete goes around it to hold it good in case a horse accidentally happens to step on it. And then it's checked again for final alignment. It can still be moved slightly in the green concrete, but it doesn't need to be. It's just right. Then the brass cap is cemented on, and that one is in place. So we'll go around and put all 4 corners in, which will be the smallest of the jobs we've done. The breeze is beginning to blow slightly now, causing the wildflowers to move around a little bit in the early morning breeze. As Ben checks from one monument to the next. And finally, after all this time and effort we've put into this job, it looks like we're on our very last monument, and the final cement goes in, and the final cap goes on, and a job well done. Now we can go explore around the desert a little more, and of course we hear the rumbling of hooves, and we look ahead, and here's the same old black mare and her little baby colt galloping across the desert, stirring up dust, and the thunder of their hooves can be heard for a long distance around. Their long tails and their untrimmed mane whip in the desert breeze, and the old stallion, it looks like a Palomino stallion in the rear, and that's why the little colt seems to be a Palomino. They stand on the horizon just checking us out to see if we mean any harm, and they finally decided that we were okay, so they just stop and look. A few of the cotton candy clouds hang in the background as the horses stand up here and wave their tails, and their mane is flopping in the breeze, and then they trot on over the hill out of sight. We were going to drive out to Coyote Lake in the car, but we had a rude awakening. Just before Coyote Lake, there's a small playa that was totally underwater, and boy, there's no way I'm going to drive in something like that. That is a good place to get stuck, and if you get stuck out here, it may be for a while. We see an old World War II fin off from a bomb, and then it's time to be leaving as we go past the military road out to the White Horse Ranch, past the White Horse Ranch, and to the White Horse Hot Springs. We're going to have a little celebration. We're going to go out and look the country over a little bit, and then use the hot springs. And
Camp C.F. Smith began May 1866 to protect Oregon Central Military Road, abandoned November 9th, 1869. Then ranched by John S. Devine. Then became part of Miller and Lux Cattle Empire in 1887.
past the White Horse Ranch, and then we'll turn off and go to Willow Creek Hot Springs. Some call it White Horse Hot Springs. After we pass the White Horse Ranch, we take a left on one of the first dirt roads to the left and follow down till we come to the hot springs. This hot springs is now on BLM property. It was one time part of the property of the White Horse Ranch, but due to a land trade, now it's public property. And so there's a hot and a cold side. We see there's a couple in the spring, but that's okay. There'll be plenty of room for all of us. A few white clouds are circling above. We can see the reflection in the water. And Ben and Julie hurry and jump in the warmer pool, and it feels great. It's we were in there a while, and then we decide a trip to the desert isn't complete without going out and seeing if we can find some of the Oregon Sunstones, or Oregon's, that's officially Oregon's gemstone. It's the Sunstones of southeast Oregon. We find several of them, and they make really good faceted stones. We have a place over at Sri Lanka where we send them and get them faceted into diamonds. So now we'll say goodbye to our little Scorpion and head on out. I used to just buy cheaper passenger tires for my vehicle until I learned better. And every time we'd come out here with those cheaper tires, here's what would happen. So we started buying the light truck tires and the 10-ply ones. So that put a stop to the flat tires we were always having. And it isn't that much of a job to change a tire, but a little bit aggravating.